The day of justice has finally come.
That's right.
For the Rankin County Goon Squad.
The Goon Squad. A nickname federal prosecutors say some white former Mississippi law enforcement officers gave themselves for their alleged willingness to use excessive force and not report. Now 6 of them facing sentencing after pleading guilty to charges in connection with torturing 2 black men, Michael Jenkins and Eddie Parker, for nearly 2 hours back in January of 2023.
That's right. 3 out of 6 sheriff deputies in Mississippi were finally sentenced after decades of terrorizing the citizens of Rankin County. The straw that seemed to break the back of the camel, I messed that up, you know what I'm saying, was that effective torture of victims Michael Jenkins and Eddie Parker, who were staying with a woman whom Parker was helping to take care of, when a neighbor reported that several black men were at a white woman's house, and that was suspicious. So 6 officers, all of whom were white, went to that home despite having no probable cause to do so. And according to CNN and the accounts of those victims, for almost 2 hours, a squad of white Mississippi law enforcement officers raided a home without warrants, subjected Michael Jenkins and Eddie Parker to racist vitriol, tased them after they'd already been handcuffed, beat them with various objects, and then shot Jenkins in the mouth, leaving him to bleed as they planted a gun on the victims and plotted their cover story. Cute, wonderful. Other things they did were force them to strip naked, intimidated them with warning shots, and forced them to be part of a mock execution. So the most terrifying 2 hours of anyone's any life imaginable. Those 6 officers did get hefty sentences, but there's more. They are Hunter Elward, Christian Dedman, Brett McAlpin, Jeffrey Middleton, Daniel Updike, and Richland police officer Joshua Hatfield. 3 of them, Edlin, Middleton, and Updike, were part of that Goon Squad. They named themselves the Goon Squad, and what did the Goon Squad do? They absolutely tortured citizens for nearly 2 decades. 2 decades. Deputies in the Rankin County Sheriff's Department, many of whom called themselves the Goon Squad, would barge into homes in the middle of the night, handcuff people, torture them for information or confessions. In the pursuit of drug arrests, the deputies rammed a stick down one man's throat until he vomited, dripped molten metal onto another man's skin, and held people down and beat them until they were bloody and bruised, according to dozens of people who said they had witnessed or experienced the raids. In fact, many of those people who experienced the raids in these 2 decades had contacted Sheriff Brian Bailey of Rankin County to complain, only to be ignored. But then it had to be Jenkins and Parker who finally filed a civil rights lawsuit last June for everyone to be taken seriously and to get these guilty pleas. Before I kick it to you, Waz, this is good news. There's actual hefty sentences. The FBI director has called this atrocious and an act of pure hell. Yeah, I'd say, but take a look.
The courtroom filled with emotion at sentencing today. Michael Jenkins' mother, Mary Jenkins, giving a victim impact statement in court, saying in part, "I want the same consideration for these people as they gave my son when they put the gun in his mouth and pulled the trigger." And the parents of one of the convicted deputies, Hunter Elward, also making a statement. "Nothing prepares a parent for this. What happened shouldn't have happened. There are so many more victims than the people in this room. Hunter is going to take and own what he did." And his son did. Hunter Elward stood up and directly addressed the 2 men he victimized. "I'm so sorry. I don't want to get too personal with you, Michael. There's no telling what you've seen. I'm so sorry that I caused that. I hate myself for it. I hate that I gave you that. I accept all responsibility."
That's not something you hear every day from a sheriff. That was Hunter Elward, 31 years old, sentenced to 20 years in by a federal court. Jeffrey Middleton, 46-year-old former sheriff's deputy whom federal prosecutors described as the ringleader of that Goon Squad. He was sentenced to more than 17.5 years on Tuesday. They're also ordered to pay $79,500 in restitution to the victims. Updike was sentenced to 17.5 years, and Christian Dedman was sentenced to 40 years, the maximum sentence for that torture of Michael Jenkins and Eddie Parker. Dedman apparently participated in what was countless missions. Countless missions, I don't know if I would call them missions, and was, quote, not afraid to use excessive force. Despite his relatively young age, one prosecutor said Denman had the experience not to do what he was doing. He hid behind his badge and gun, and his acts are egregious, serious, and lawless. Yeah, again, the sheriff still in office, but was 3 of 6 were sentenced. I can't imagine the terror that those 2 gentlemen went through.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta say that's pretty good news. That's nothing to sneeze at. Generally, cops get slapped on the wrist for this type of behavior. They might get fired, they might lose a pension, but rarely do we ever see these guys get thrown in the pokey for this sort of abhorrent behavior. And honestly, it flows from the top. Like, I'm glad these guys got pinched and are going to pay the price, but they're betters than their superiors for fostering an atmosphere and a culture where police officers thought it was appropriate to behave in this fashion is insane. And honestly, this is another thing, especially in places like Mississippi, where a lot of the power goes unchecked, right? There is only one party rule for that, right? Like these people act with an impunity in these communities. There is no check on the actual power, and we know that unchecked power tends to be as corrupt as it gets. So it's no surprising that they brazenly would call themselves a goon squad, right? Yeah. Like that would be their known name for themselves. Essentially calling themselves criminals, people that are going out to commit crimes against the citizenry. It's a miracle, honestly, that these guys got caught and are getting their just due in terms of a prison sentence, public ridicule. And I want to give a shout out to that guy's dad for not coming out and doing the typical thing that we see where the parents come out and act like Johnny was just the perfect little boy his whole life, and they just can't believe he did this. The dad came out and said, what this guy did was horrible. I can't believe my son would do this, and he deserves to pay the price.
Yeah, and we're hearing that actually a 4th has been sentenced of the 6, so that's good. I mean, it also should be a signal to other sheriff's departments around this country. I live in LA, and we know that sheriff's department here in LA County has gangs in it. Just gangs, just all like that relish in torturing people and killing people, get tattoos when they do so, and celebrate that kind of violence. And we're just supposed to be like, yep, yep, sheriffs and law enforcement, they protect us, things are good. No, man, crime is at an all-time low. They are bored. Are they bored? Is that what's happening right now? Do we need to move funds out of police and sheriff departments? Is that what's happening? But again, like, nobody raises their kid to do something like this, to torture someone, to put a gun in their mouth, to put a stick in their mouth and pour molten lava on their skin. It is the culture of policing that is above, that is completely impugned, right? Like, it's completely above the law. They think they are the law so they can get away with violating the law. That is what it is. And so, like, we don't have enough checks on them, and we celebrate shooting first and asking questions later. And also, it should not be lost on anyone, the race dynamics here. 6 white men in this predominant, I mean, I can only imagine the Goon squad. You gotta be white to be part of it, but who knows? And also, like, the origins of policing in general.
Hey, thanks for watching that video. We really appreciate it, guys. And we appreciate it if you become members, because that allows us to be independent, honest, progressive, all the things that you don't get from corporate media. And all of that is because of you guys. Hit the join button below and become one of us. Become a Young Turk.